Hi and welcome back to the third module in this self-help program for depression. In this module we will show you the first step in behavioral activation, namely registering what you do and how you feel. But first let's take a short recap of the rationale behind behavioral activation. From now on I will use the acronym BA instead of behavioral activation. The starting point of BA is the vicious circle of depression. For some reason, you're depressed. Something triggered it. It's rarely easy or apparent what the triggering cause was, and in this context, it isn't really that important. Depression leads to a drop in energy. You feel tired, you don't feel like doing anything. This leads to inactivity, where you deprioritize activities you previously enjoyed or that was important to you. This in turn leads to a reduction in positive experiences and can also lead to an increase in negative experiences. And this completes the vicious circle, because a daily life with no positive experiences and many negative ones promotes further depression. BA is about breaking with the circle at the activity point. The goal is to get back to the life and activities that gave you pleasure. This is in contrast to passive activities, e.g. daytime sleeping, binge-watching TV programs or sitting on a computer even though you're not really engaged in the content, or by drinking alcohol or using drugs to get away from unpleasant feelings. If you ask a person who's out on the town with friends, "Why are you doing this?" then you might receive a look of confusion. She's doing this because she wants to. And this is how our behavior usually operates. We do things because we're motivated to do it. We call this retroactive behavior. But the problem with depression is that this motivation might never come. To get around this issue, you have to behave in a way that might make the depression fade over time, called proactive behavior. This means that you actively plan and carry out activities, instead of waiting for the motivation to find you. The key to BA is to commit to act in a way that might lessen that depression and give you back your quality of life, even though you might feel unmotivated. We can divide BA into three distinct processes: registering, planning, and carrying out activities. The first step in this program is to register both what you do and your general mood. If you're using our free mobile application, then this means pressing on a time point in the calendar and writing what you've been doing for the last hour or 2 hours. And then assessing on a simple 1 to 5 scale your overall mood. You can imagine that a 5 is you having a really great time, really enjoying yourself, and a 1 is where you feel really awful or really depressed. You can decide what aspect of depression are important, which this number can represent for you. It could be your mood, but it could also be your energy level, self-esteem, or something else that's important to you. What's important here is that this number represents an important subjective quality related to your depression. How closely you would like to register what you do is up to you, but we recommend registering every 2 hours to get a clear sense of your activities and your mood. If you do this in this self-help process, then you will get an excellent sense of what makes you tick, which is important further on. You really do need to register a certain amount of detail in order to get an accurate description of your daily life. Let's look at 2 examples that illustrate this. Let's say that Lily watches a movie that lasts 4 hours. It's her favorite movie, The Lord of the Rings, and it lasts 4 hours. Lily has looked forward to this all week, and the movie is really engaging. She registers TV for 4 hours in the calendar and a mood of 5. Now let's turn to Paul. He gets home from work and is exhausted. So he sits down on the couch where he stays for 4 hours. During this time, Paul is basically just zapping between different channels and media outlets, and nothing really stimulates him. The majority of Paul's attention is on his own thoughts, where he repeats the same sort of themes over and over. Why do I feel so awful and tired all the time? What could it be? On the surface level, then Paul and Lily's activities might look very similar. They're both watching a screen for 4 hours, but there are some key aspects here that differ. Paul is watching TV to avoid doing anything else. Maybe there's dishes to be done or phone calls he should make. So we can call this behavior an avoidance behavior. Avoidance behavior is an example of inactivity we have mentioned earlier. It can feel good to sit down on the couch for a while, but Paul quickly starts ruminating and worrying. In both cases, we would highlight the importance of filling in more details in the calendar. Lily could write TV, movie, Lord of the Rings, while Paul could write TV, nothing particular, a lot of rumination. Here's another example. Logan goes to work every weekday and can register work from 8 to 4. But if we zoom in on Logan's workday, we can find crucial details. From 8 to 10, he has meetings with colleagues. Logan is pretty engaged here and writes a 3. From 10 until lunch at 12, he works in his office on a project. This is something Logan previously liked doing, but after he got depressed, his work on the project has been unfocused and unproductive. He keeps postponing difficult but important tasks because he feels that he hasn't got the energy or motivation to complete them. The end result is that the time from 10 to 12 is plagued by rumination, boredom and a sense of guilt. A 1 out of 5 for Logan. Logan then eats lunch with his colleagues where he feels better, a 3 out of 5. Logan is busy with clients after lunch where he feels reasonably engaged and okay in mood. With Logan's example, we see the value in extra details. There is clearly a single point which is worst for Logan, namely the time he spends secluded in his office, where he has troubles getting started on important tasks. In the next module, we'll talk more about Logan's options in this scenario. When you register your activities in the calendar, it's important to also write down passive activities like rumination, daydreaming, resting on the couch, staring into the wall, etc., as these activities can maintain depression. If you become aware of when you are most vulnerable for passive behavior, then you can plan activities very effectively. One tip in this process is to pretend that you're a curious researcher and that the scientific question that you want to answer is, what makes me feel the way I do? What types of mood is associated with what activities? We would like you to register your mood and activities for 1 week before starting the next module. To fill in an activity, you simply press the time slot and write down what you're doing. And this will automatically cue a rating of your mood in this period. This whole procedure should not take more than a minute or 2. The mobile app stores the data locally, meaning that the information you register will be lost if you delete the app. Your mood can be tracked in the development feature, where you can see your daily and weekly averages as well as your development over time. You can do exactly the same registration with a worksheet if you don't want to use the app. You can find a link to a worksheet in the video description. It might sound a little strange to have to register activities and mood in an app. Why can't you just rely on your memory to gather this information? Well, think about it. Can you remember what you did a couple of days ago? Where were you? With whom? How was your workday? Can you remember how you felt and how your mood was influenced by your activities? If you ask a random person, then they would have severe difficulties in answering these sorts of questions accurately. You might also be wondering for how long you need to register. And the answer is as long as you are working on your depression. For some, a couple of weeks are enough, while for others they need several months to see improvements. That was all we had for this module. In the next module, we'll introduce planning activities. Look for a link in the video description. We recommend that you register your activities and mood for 1 week before starting the next module. See you later.